How much Pepsi would a 20-year-old have to drink to earn a $32 million Harrier Jet? Trust me, you'll get a toothache just thinking about it. Brainball presents Jinxed Jet, Pepsi's PR nightmare. During the flannel-clad 1990s, the cola wars were in full swing, with Coca-Cola and Pepsi locked in intense competition. By mid-decade, Coca-Cola was still the leader in the cola market, but Pepsi had been making gains with its marketing campaigns and celebrity endorsements. Then, in 1996, Pepsi launched a promotion brilliantly named Drink Pepsi, Get Stuff. The campaign offered its loyal customers the opportunity to collect and redeem Pepsi points for a variety of rewards such as t-shirts, hats, and other branded merchandise. The program also offered larger prizes such as a leather jacket for 75 points, a recliner for 500 points, and more. But for 7 million points, the commercial cheekily suggested the prize was a Harrier Jet, a high-performance military aircraft that could take off and land vertically. The ad showed a young man happily flying his jet to school and impressing his mates. This was no radio-controlled model. It was a serious piece of hardware worth $32 million. To give you an idea of how unlikely acquiring 7 million Pepsi points was, single bottles of Pepsi had 1 point, while 12 packs had 2, and 24 packs had 4. Of course, Pepsi had no intention of giving away a Harrier Jet, and most people who saw the advertisement got the joke. Most people. Before we go on, you can play my favorite game just by clicking the subscribe and like buttons. To win the grand prize, don't forget to hit the notification bell. Thanks. 21-year-old John Leonard contacted Pepsi and was told he would need to drink 17 million cans of Pepsi to earn enough points for the jet. For anyone wondering, that would be over 201 million ounces of fizzy brown sugar water, or enough to fill 2.5 Olympic-sized swimming pools. But he soon learned that he had the option to purchase Pepsi points for 10 cents each. It was at that moment the 21-year-old business student saw an opportunity and decided to take advantage of it. Leonard quickly calculated he could buy the 7 million points for just $700,000 and redeem them for a $32 million prize. Now, you might be thinking, how could Pepsi make such a ridiculous mistake? Well, as it turns out, the promotion was actually carefully designed with legal protections in place to prevent situations like this. However, a miscommunication between the legal and marketing departments led to the promotion being presented in a way that made it seem like the Harrier Jet was a legitimate prize. Someone definitely got fired for this. Leonard convinced investors to lend him the money, and he sent a check for $700,000 along with the 15 minimum labels required to claim his Harrier Jet. However, Pepsi refused his offer, claiming that the jet promotion in the commercial was meant to be a humorous and entertaining ad, and it wasn't meant to be taken seriously. Leonard sued Pepsi for breach of contract and fraud, and the story became national news. According to John and an investor, they were offered between $750,000 and $1 million to settle quietly, but they wanted to hold out for a much larger reward and took the case to court. Now for a bit of useless trivia. In the early 1980s, KFC proudly introduced their new slogan to China. Unfortunately, finger-licking good was poorly translated to eat your fingers off. The campaign failed. Don't feel too bad for KFC. They were later purchased by Pepsi in 1986, just 10 years before the Harrier Jet Incident. What a convenient segue back to our story. Leonard believed his plan was foolproof, and news of his lawsuit spread like wildfire. The media, talking heads, and late-night hosts had a field day with the story, but Pepsi was not amused. They quickly realized their mistake and changed the rules of the promotion to exclude high-value items like the Harrier Jet. But it was too late. Just to be clear, Leonard didn't really want the jet, but he did expect Pepsi to settle out of court for millions. This was a battle of David versus Goliath, and some people actually thought Leonard had a legitimate chance. That's not actually how things went. When the case went to court, the judge ruled in favor of Pepsi and dismissed the case. The ruling stated that the commercial was clearly a joke and not to be taken seriously. The judge's decision concluded the Harrier jet is for military purposes like attacking and destroying targets. So the idea of using it to get to school is obviously not a serious one, even if the jet was modified to eliminate its military capabilities. Even the Pentagon weighed in on the lawsuit, reporting in order to sell a Harrier jet to a civilian, they would have to strip the jet of its ability to land and take off vertically. And what's the fun in that? In the end, John Leonard received nothing from his lawsuit, and his 15 minutes of fame ticked to a close. Luckily for the struggling student, he was not forced to pay any damages or legal fees to Pepsi, since the judge ruled the lawsuit was without merit. That was lucky for John, since he could have been on the hook for millions of dollars in restitution. Pepsi, for their part, continued to air the infamous commercial, taking advantage of its newfound notoriety. However, they did make a few changes. Pepsi updated the cost of the Harrier jet to a whopping 700 million Pepsi points. And just to be clear, they added a printed disclaimer saying, "Just kidding." Today, John Leonard is a park ranger in Alaska and was recently the subject of a Netflix documentary. Despite the outcome of the court case, the Pepsi Harrier Jet Incident remains a cautionary tale for companies that engage in creative advertising and marketing campaigns. But what do you think? Was Pepsi in the right, or did John Leonard have a case? Let us know in the comments below. That's it for this one. If you enjoyed this story, check out why passing away in this city is against the law. Trust me, you don't want to be arrested for dying in the wrong place. Thanks for watching Brainball.